to Portal Paranormal Talk Radio, your door to the spirit world. Here's your chance to talk ghosts, spirits, psychics, and everything paranormal. For more information, go to www.portaltalkradio.com. Now, Portal Paranormal Talk Radio brings you your hosts, Tuesday Miles and
welcome to Portal Paranormal Talk Radio. I'm your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
How are you, Angela?
I'm fine, Tuesday Miles. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Let's start off. Let's give our listeners a couple other places they can listen to the show at. Could you give that?
Well, wonderful, wonderful. Well, if you are listening to the show, you may also wish to join us in our virtual auditorium on paltalk.com. Simply go to the social issues category, select Other, and on to the Paranormal Radio Network room. Portal can be heard live on AOL Radio, MSN Radio, Tricom, Live 365, BBS Radio, just to name a few. Tonight's guest is Dr. Deborah Foulkes. Dr. Foulkes is an expert in past lives, reincarnation, and the 13th century Scottish hero, Lord Douglas. So think Braveheart. To learn more about today's guest, go to www.portaltalkradio.com or skybear.com to learn more about her.
And did we put in that you can listen to us now on UPRN 105.8 FM?
Well, you're saying it there because you're listening to the show through UPRN 105.8 New Orleans through the Paranormal Radio Network. And you know, Tuesday, there's two new ways to access the show, and that is through UpSnap. You simply text PARA, P-A-R-A, 27627 to download it to your cell phone, or you can call 201-765-9737 to receive it on your car radio.
Hey, now, that's pretty good.
That's darn good.
So, you know what, there's no excuses that the people can't find our show.
That's right. Plus, we have archives on the portaltalkradio.com site. Just in case you missed the show tonight, you can always catch it in the archive.
You can always catch it in the archive. So yesterday I have to admit the fact is that, you know, and our listeners are, you know, they know this, that, you know, about how I felt about my good friend Peter James. And yesterday was his 1-year anniversary upon his death. And so, you know, being the fact is that there's some people in our lives that touch us in that way where you just plain miss them. And you just think, you know, the fact of it is that really what was it that my friendship meant to both of us that, you know, really touched my heart in a way since after his passing, you know, and as time goes on, and this is so very true, and I realize this myself also too, time does heal, and, you know, you just kind of find ways where you can embrace, you know, the life and the time that you spent with them before, and the fact is that, you know, being that he was a psychic medium, that, you know, to me, it would, you know, kind of make him a little bit more aware about what he's doing on the other side. I don't know if we lose that on the other side. That's a good question. I've never really asked anybody. It's generally, do we really bring our gifts with us on the other side, and does that make us more aware?
Well, we'll just have to ask Dr. Deborah Foulkes about that one.
Yeah, that would be a good question that we can ask her about that, you know. And you know, and also, too, though, you know, Angela, I have also stated the fact is that I wasn't real sure about the reincarnation stuff. I really want more proof. But I have to say, with this guest today, kind of has brought that proof into this.
Oh, don't you know it. Let me tell you, I've been reading Footprints of William. Now, this is one of the many books that Dr. Foulkes has written. And Footprints of William is really about, you know, love continuing on, life continuing on in the afterlife. But here's the key. This is a bit different because you're right about reincarnation and past lives. This is her own personal experience, and she uncovered significant information in old documents in Scotland. She happens to be an expert also on the 13th century Lord Douglas. So that's William Lahardy Douglas. Think Braveheart, because he was instrumental in the war for independence for Scotland.
Now, there was a movie made from this, wasn't there, Braveheart?
Yes, Braveheart with Mel Gibson. Very popular movie. And so many people want to know, well, what happened afterwards? What happened afterwards? And so Dr. Deborah Foulkes has written additional books that really follow up with everything that happened after William Wallace died. And William Wallace was the key character in Braveheart. That was the character Mel Gibson played. So absolutely fascinating. But when we talk about reincarnation and past lives and what she uncovered through historical research and all of these documents, Tuesday, it will amaze you. You know, I was thinking, okay, here's a charming book about past lives and this, that, and the other, but I got to tell you, I was quite surprised because every page I turned, I kept on saying, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And on top of that, she's got photographs in there that I think too few are able to capture. I don't know if you've ever seen or if any of our listeners has ever seen pictures of spirit's energy or spiritual energy. But there's a lot of geographic patterns, you know, like diamond shapes and different colors and things of that nature. And there are amazing pictures of that and full apparitions that some of them look absolutely human, like I would look at any person live. So you've got to get the book, Footprints of William, to learn about Dr. Foulkes' experience, and then if you want to find out about Scotland and what happened to William Wallace and Lord Douglas, then certainly go on to her website. Now, she does have a dedicated website for that, and that is called mytruthliesintheruins.com. So I'm very
excited. Is that on our website,
Angela?
Angela?
That's on our website, and you can go to portaltalkradio.com for more information about Dr. Deborah Richmond Foulkes. I'm just very excited because not too many people that I've ever spoken to Tuesday has, number one, the expertise behind it, but secondly, the documentation, and she certainly has it.
Well, you know, I mean, you know, and I just wonder in life that, you know, when we get these guests on some of these projects that they have researched, you know, I mean, it's odd in a sense because, you know, I mean, there's just such a million subjects out there that truly you can't help but really believe in what these people are doing because it's, you know, and especially with her work, she's really documented and gone to the full extent to document this, you know, the stories and that she's, you know, experienced on Miss Angela. It's pretty good on this. But, you know, I want to stop there for a second because I want to give you a compliment on the air in front of all of our 60,000+ listeners.
We have more than 60,000. You must be thinking just from one area.
Well, of course, but you know, but this is the thing on it. So, if any of you have ever read Angela Thomas's press releases, you've got to, because I'm telling you that this woman here writes the best press releases I have ever seen. Anybody
well, thank
ever.
You. Thank you very much.
You just do an awesome job in itself, Angela. I have to say that I hope one day that you will continue doing this writing because you're just really, really good at it.
Well, thank you, Tuesday. You know, I do enjoy writing a lot. You know, I like to write poetry and short stories, and I love to write press releases and anything that's related to promotions or public relations. And I know that if I did not have the work as a psychic or work as a radio co-host with you, that probably could open a business just writing press releases alone.
I tell you, you know what I mean? You know, and it's funny because you are being recognized on this because we have had other radio show hosts actually write to us and ask them or ask you if you would write their press release for them.
Yes, that's true.
So that's so true. Hey, you know, I mean, you know, and the fact is that, you know, they themselves are like, I can't believe this how well that she does this. What, you know, I'm like, I don't either. The fact is she is damn good at it.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, you never know. That might be another calling. Who knows? Several corporations will call me and say, Angela, you're hired.
Yep. Hey, there you go. I was just told through the virtual auditorium that they gave us numbers at now the station is logged into, or the 71,068 listeners logged into our show as of right now.
Well, that is 71,000 people that are listening just through one avenue. Now, remember, we have BBS Radio, we have Aussie Chat Radio, we have iTunes, we have MSN Radio, Tricom. You know, we have Fusion Broadcasting. So that's just one avenue. And then we have all of those people that are listening live directly from the Portal Talk Radio website. So, you know, a lot of people don't wish to go into, say, a virtual auditorium or something of this nature. They simply want to kick back, listen to the show, and relax.
Well, I give them a shout-out, each and every one of you.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone.
Yes, hello, everyone. You know, I seem to be on this path these days that I'm receiving these clients that I have been working with on teaching them how to empower themselves during a haunting, during an attack from something that is just not so very nice. You know, whether the attack has to do with pulling of the hair, pushing, or climbing in bed with you, or you know, and there's a list that goes on through these attacks. But I really have found the fact is that teaching also is very important to teach these clients that we have how to empower themselves during something that they're experiencing. I mean, sure, they have the investigation team come in, maybe some other experts that are helping them through this, but truly that I'm seeing that these teams are trying to help a little bit empower the clients, but really to spend that extra time to sit down and talk with them through this on how they can help themselves also. And one of the characteristics of a bully, and I'm going to say this bully as a spirit, it's a bully spirit, and mind you, they are out there, whether that you want to call them evil, negative, earthbound.
But not all spirits are bullies or negative.
No, not at all. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is they are out there, you know, and that's been proven over and over again on it, Angela. But see, what happens is that once you become afraid, it's almost as if you become that victim. And that's just like anything else. That's even with you have somebody that you're living with as a bully to you. You know, there's that fear factor, that intimidation.
Certainly. And
what the characteristics of these entities will do is the fact is that they will do stuff to you that is fully intimidating, causing that fear. And, you know, the client, what happens to the client is that they feel that if they disrupt the entity, piss the entity off, make it mad, whatever you want to say it, then they just let it do what it wants to do, because the minute they start fighting back, this thing gets stronger. Well, true. But if you empower yourself during this, but the fact of it is that, and this is how you can go by empowering yourself, you're going to have to lighten up the area around you. The fact of it is sometimes, not always, and I want you to understand, so I'm saying not always, but sometimes that we can manifest this energy in with around us. We can add to the problem. We can be part of the problem, what's going on. A lot of times people are in that depressed mode. The fact is that they get up, they don't do anything through the day. They just, you know, they're just in that oppression mode. And is that caused from the entity? It's been shown that, yes, it can cause oppression. Not depression, oppression. There's a difference between the two on it. But what you can do to better help yourself is, you know, remind yourself the fact is that you have skin. You are powerful in this entity. But the fact of it is that if something is bothering you, don't sit there and let it bother you. Get up.
Well, you know, I have to ask you, though, Tuesday, because, you know, we've met, and our listeners know, I know they know, probably could name 5 people right off, that regardless of their circumstances, they fear empowering themselves. They would rather rely on someone else to just fix it, you know, just like we would order maybe a cable person to come in and hook up cable television for us. You know, can I just order somebody or pay somebody to come out here and fix it for me? But a lot of people, like you said, are very fearful. So how does one even overcome that? Because, you know, let's get realistic. Some people just cannot do that for themselves.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I believe in getting and having support on this, that the one person alone should not be involved with this. That the fact is, and that's why paranormal investigation teams are so, you know, important on this aspect, is to get that support. You know, and even if they're not there all the time for you to support you, to actually find either family, friends, neighbors, whoever it is on it, either somebody else in the church, to support you during this, to help keep talking you through this. The fact of it is understanding that, okay, we might not be able to get rid of it, but we can sure empower you to weaken it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
absolutely.
You know, and the fact of it is that, you know, and I know that feeling, Angela. I've been there. I have been there myself, and knowing that feeling of intimidation and fear, and having something attack me that you feel so powerless over. And,
right.
You know, and it had somebody stepped aside and took me and sat me down and said, you know what, girl? You have it in yourself to fight back. You have it in yourself to step up and start taking your power back. And when I say power, which means is it's your own faith, your own intent, your own belief. You know, this is your space. It's not the entity space. It's in the way. This is your space.
So let me ask you, Tuesday. I mean, you know, I know that you've been on a lot of paranormal investigations. I want to, number one, ask you what the strangest thing that you've come across is, but also I wanted to particularly ask you about animals. I mean, are animals affected by that? Or are they possessed by them? Or are they swayed by them? Because, you know, I know that, you know, from the past, I no longer have animals around, but I had cats and dogs that would pick up on spiritual energy in the house, and they seemed to react to it as far as barking or, you know, the cat getting up and just looking at it or hissing and walking away. But have you ever experienced anything like that on a case?
Well, I have. I have actually on it. In fact, I was on this one case where we actually witnessed a dog being picked up by its tail. And this was not a very small dog. It was a bigger dog, you know. And kind of like, you know, I mean, it swayed itself back and forth, and it finally just threw it against the wall. You know, you know, and the poor dog, the fact is the dog got right back up and started growling at it, and I thought, you go, dog, you know, don't fight back, you know, and stuff. And so, you know, and in my own cat, I've seen my cat's tail pulled, and I've seen, my dog doesn't like them at all. My dog does not like the ghost. She will put her ears back, and she'll stare at it, and then slowly just kind of creep down the floor and put her head down, going like, if I don't make a move, it won't notice me. But, you know, and still with how I've helped her is empowering her by just saying to her, you know what, if you don't like it, you don't have to put up with it. You know, I mean, is she understanding me? Well, she looks at me like she's understanding me, you know, but the fact of it is that an animal is going to treat any type of ghost that comes into your house as a stranger if it hasn't been there when the dog first was there.
Right.
If you bring in a new dog and the ghost or whatever was there, it's going to treat it as it lives there, and it's really not going to pay much attention to it. But in the other hand, if the dog has been at the house or the cat first, and when something comes in, it's going to treat that ghost, entity, spirit, whatever it is, as a stranger, like it's even a burglar, and they'll get aggressive towards it. They'll bark at it, and they'll, you know, and show signs of not wanting to go into a certain room because of it. You know, they really do have this awesome sixth sense within themselves. These animals do, and can detect any type of activity going on around you, and is often noted during the first interview with the client through the investigation team. Is there any animals, and have they been acting differently? So, you know, it's a sure sign that, you know, to keep watch of what your animals are going to do. But I also believe animals have this, I mean, in the story that I sent you over the weekend, you know, and here is that my cat has, first of all, my house, over the years, I had noticed that anytime there's a stray animal, for some reason, they always end up on my front door.
Oh, I know. I love this story.
You know, and I'm thinking, oh, you know, another one, you know, and mind you that, you know, I have been successful, and every single animal that's ever ended up on my front door have found the family that, you know, belonged to. But this story was kind of unique. I noticed a couple weeks ago a cat showed up, and he happened just to walk up with my male cat that I have, which is 17 years old. And so I noticed it right away because it's such a pretty cat. And so I thought, well, maybe it's just a neighborhood cat, just being friends with him, except that he kept hanging around. They kept hanging around, and he looked like he was getting skinnier and skinnier. So I started giving him some food. And he wouldn't come near me. It was he even acted like he was a wildcat, Angela. So as time goes on, I finally was able the other night to coax the cat a little bit closer. It had a collar on it, but I didn't see a tag. And I kept throwing chicken at it. And so it would bite the chicken, and it would come a few steps closer, and I kept trying to get it close to me. And I finally got a glance at the collar, and the collar had a phone number on it. And I thought, oh, cool, you know. And so I called this phone number, and, of course, this little old lady answers the phone. Hello? You know, and I'm like, were you missing your cat? Oh, yes. You know, and I'm talking to her, and she says, well, he's been gone for 2 months.
Oh,
I
2
thought,
months,
that's a long time for, 2 months. So when I went to ask her where she lives, Angela, she lived 15 miles from me.
Wow.
And I kept thinking, how in the heck would her cat, which is, now that I find out, actually was a feral cat, which means is that it was a wild cat, but she had become friends with it and took it in as a pet, came about over to my house 15 miles away. And how my cat ends up being friends with it and decides to bring it home. Well, my mom will find your master.
Mm-hmm.
So, long story short, she comes over, and yet this cat still was hiding and would not come to anybody. Didn't even see this little lady at first. And the next thing I know, she was with her grandson. He spots the cat, and she just whispers once to this cat, and this cat starts walking over to her.
Oh.
And walks up to her and just starts purring, jumps in her arms. I mean, he knew that was her. I mean, he'd been gone for a couple months, but he knew who she was.
Oh. Oh.
And so, the story on that was so great because the fact is that she was able to find her cat. It was the only thing that she had left. Her husband had died. It was just her and her cat. She had a grandson, but didn't live with her. But the fact is that animals knew that they could find somebody who would be generally, gentle with them or help them, and that was the thing. Whether my cat related to this other cat, that hey, she'll find your wherever you live, or how to trust, and that's just how it worked itself out.
Right. Well, that really reminds me, Tuesday, about a very popular YouTube video going around the world with the lion that two gentlemen had raised, and they ended up having to put it back into the wild or, work it into the wild. Anyway, like a year later, they decide to go back and revisit to see if they could find the lion, and the lion had already, had its own pride and this, that, and the other, and it recognized the men, went up to the men, and played with the men. And it was so touching and, heartwarming and things to view the video. So if you haven't seen it yet, you'll find it on CNN's website or, of course, YouTube website.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool video.
Oh, it was so sweet, so sweet. But I do believe that animals are extraordinarily intuitive, and, of course, they have that memory. So, a lot of people out there need to pay particular attention to their pets and to wildlife as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Angela. And that's the good thing about it. The fact of it is that, here it is that, sometimes we hear not some so pretty stories about the paranormal. And I have to say, out there's a lot of television programs that really concentrated on the negative side of the paranormal. And then once in a while you get this unique, neat story. And with Dr. Deborah that's going to be on today, she also has a very unique story in regarding the spirit that visited her and gave her some information. So we do have those very nice, loving stories about the paranormal, and that the fact is that there is good spirits out there also. I mean, we get our bad, but overall there is our good, and they really generally, I really believe, Angela, the fact is that we hope that, we're supposed to be winning the war on the negative side of this part, and even though we need that balance, we do need that light and that dark to understand each other, but hopefully the fact is that we're trying to eliminate as much negativity as we can within within the spirit realm.
Well, I agree with you on the light and dark. You can't recognize the light until you've experienced the dark. And, for those that are going through difficult times, there's always a new day. And I believe I saw a sign not long ago, Tuesday, that said you can't understand the rainbow until you've gone through the rain.
Absolutely on that, Angela. And people do. I have to say that people do complain about it, complain about the fact is about the negativity on it. But I think we have a part to play in this too, though, Angela. If we are in that way of life, we are focusing on the negative aspects of our life. And, you are sensitive. The fact of it is that we have to be real careful about that because we can bring in something that's not so nice.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And then, this is the thing about it, though, is it's responsibility. And I think that's really important. The fact is that not every single person can see a dead person or a ghost. Not everybody can do that.
Right.
And
well, some hear them or, feel them or, You know, spirit comes in many different ways.
Very true on that, Angela. But the fact of it is that we have, as sensitives, responsibility. And you know that when something starts coming around you that isn't very nice, that maybe you have to step back and look at yourself. Am I being responsible? Am I doing my grounding, my protection? Is my intense faith and belief intact? Am I doing the work that I need to do to first and foremost protect myself and my energy?
I agree, to protect yourself. But, you know, a lot of people don't understand that, or they do get very, very busy, and they say, okay, well, I'm going to pass on the grounding and the protecting, and I'm just going to, you know, go to the store or go to school or, you know, go to work, and, you know, I'll catch that later. And unfortunately, you know, it's too late when something negative is in their own environment.
Well, and that's true. And you think the fact is that, you know, and I've heard people say, well, I am doing all that stuff. Well, do you believe in what you're doing?
Exactly. It's like prayer without the emotions and belief behind it, isn't it?
That's true.
It's just saying the words, and you don't want to just say the words in prayer or intent or anything of that nature. Well, I know that the activity in my own home has increased here lately, and I feel like that the presence is more, how do I say? I'm not going to say angelic, but I feel like there's a lot of spirits here that are here for maybe healing or for comfort or something of this nature, because now I have caught glimpses of them, and that's not generally how I see them. I mean, I've caught them in photographs, but with the eye, it's not too often.
So it's a sense that you're picking up about them, Angela?
Oh, not only a sense, I'm catching glimpses now of them.
Oh, okay.
So
they're letting themselves be known that they're around, huh?
Yeah, and you know, and at first I thought, as anyone should always do, you know, let's look at this logically. Let's see if this is, you know, normal or abnormal.
Oh, here we go with the logic. Okay.
And I initially said, okay, wait a minute here. I have a busy schedule. I've been, you know, with lack of sleep for a while now. So is it a delusion or an illusion, or you understand what I'm saying? But of course, it's happened with and without sleep. So
okay, but there's that sleep-deprived bit. Are you hallucinating?
Well, that's what I question. I wonder if I'm hallucinating, because we know that people without sleep can easily hallucinate. But like I said, after getting rest and, you know, so on and so forth, still experiencing that. So, but I believe they're here for a purpose, and I believe they're showing themselves to me to say, okay, we've got it covered.
But see, you brought up a good point there, though, Angela. You're a well-established psychic medium. This is not something new to you. I mean,
right.
You're very established. You're very experienced in that aspect. And do you not know the difference between a hallucination and the fact of it is that it really is what it is? I mean, you're admitting that maybe that you do hallucinate?
No, I'm not admitting that I hallucinate, because I don't hallucinate. But, you know, at the same time, I think that no matter what our work is, Tuesday, because you yourself are a psychic medium, we have to, you know, question that. I mean, I'm not questioning if there's an existence of spirits, because I know and truly know that they exist, you know, on a physical sense, emotional sense, and a mental sense. I work with spirits. But, you know, I think it's very healthy to say, wait a minute, let's examine what has just happened or what I have just seen.
Okay.
And, of course, again, with some sleep deprivation, I'm automatically going to question that a little bit more.
Okay.
So I think it's healthy. But, no, I never question, you know, the actual validity of spirits. You know, it's just very difficult to say, because sometimes I am surprised. Now, I don't know about you. Are you ever surprised about a particular spirit that comes to you, whether you're physically seeing it, hearing it, or feeling it? I mean, aren't you ever taken, you know, by surprise? Or maybe you're just saying, okay, I'm not working any longer. I've closed myself down.
Yep, I quit.
I'm going to watch this television show if it takes me all night.
I quit. Yep.
And you're not focusing on your work, and then bam, in comes a spirit, and it's like, wait a minute. You know, it's kind of startling or it's surprising.
Oh, it's a holy crap moment. Sorry to say, but it's a holy crap moment. Yeah, it is. Yeah, you know, it is. Well, you know, here's the thing about that is that I had problems for a while. The fact is really shutting myself down, and it wasn't healthy for me. And it's not healthy for anybody out there to be open 24 hours and be available for spirit. It really isn't.
Right. But, you know, there's some psychics out there that want to be open, and
well,
boy,
you know,
isn't that asking for trouble.
Power to them, Angela, but I'll have to say, they'll reach that point one day where they'll stop thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
And start thinking realistically that the fact is that, you know, that's like going to your job 24/7. Everybody needs a break from it. You can't work 24/7. That's just, we can't either. It's not healthy for you. But the fact of it is that I couldn't get my sight to shut down. I couldn't do it. It wouldn't do it no matter what I tried. I mean, even from when Lisa Williams, and of course Lisa Williams is a very famous psychic medium that's out there and stuff, and I was speaking with her, and she says that sometimes her trap door on the top of her head gets stuck open, and she jumps up and down the flaps to get it shut. And I thought, oh my God, you know, if anybody would know how to control their own gifts, she would, and nope, that wasn't the case for her. Sometimes it gets stuck, and she tries anything she can to shut it off. But
so that's why she puts on the hat
yes.
and goes through the ritual of closing down, but she puts the hat on to let spirits know that's it?
That's it. Absolutely, 100% is why she uses that hat. But in my case, what I needed to learn how to do was, okay, so my sight's not going to shut off because my clairvoyancy is when my eyes open. I can see with my eyes shut, but it's more clear with my eyes open. So being that it's the middle of the day, my eyes are open, you know, I mean, I glance over and I see something. But the thing is that for me to remove myself from that area and just keep busy with something else. And it was a struggle to learn how to do that because if it was in my home, I wanted to see what was going on. I didn't want to ignore it. I wanted to know anything and everything here. Well, with me ignoring it, didn't mean that it went away, but the fact is it gave me time to be me. It gave me the chance to be a mother, a wife, a person of society, instead of being that other half, that psychic bit of it. And so it did help. I did notice, though, Angela, when it was time for me, and if and when I do my readings, I was 100% stronger in my accuracy when I was doing my readings because it gave me the chance to have my psychic body rest.
Right.
And
Good
it was much
point.
better on that. It was a good point on that. So
Good point.
But it took a lot of practice, and I'm learning really to stick with it and to just walk away from it and get yourself busy with something else.
Yeah, I was wondering whether or not I was going to have to send you a turban or something.
And
because, I mean, your house is so active out there, you know. And, you know, what really amazes me, Tuesday, you know, seeing the videos that you've put out there and photographs and such, you know, I feel for you. I really do because, you know, I recognize that you shut down and everything, but your house is still active. But I feel bad because you can't even walk out into your yard. You've got the lemon tree there, the spirit, and for anybody that wishes to view those, just go to portaltalkradio.com and click on some of those pictures. There's a picture of the infamous lemon tree with the spirit in it, which won't leave, but also the thousands of orbs that just, you know, start coming towards your house and coming towards you outside. So let me ask you, are you ever able to barbecue or to just sit out in a lawn chair and relax and enjoy the weather?
I do, Angela. I really do. You know, the fact of it is that I really, you know, the fact is, well, for instance, I was coming home from the grocery store one night, and I happened just to stop and look up above me, and I could see these ghost spirits, whatever you want to call them, flying from wherever they were coming down straight towards me. I said, how do they know I'm at home? You know, I mean, and it amazed me. It really did amaze me. The fact is, well, of course, because, you know, I mean, being that the fact is we do radiate energy from ourselves. We do radiate a color, I think, of more of a
color and a sound.
Well, yes, and that's how they find us, you know, but it's still, you know, but no, you know, Angela, when I'm busy doing what I want to do, it's my time. And I have to be strict about it's my time. And even if I do see something, I might talk to the hand because it's not your time, it's my time. And put themselves in ignore mode. And as much as they want for us to validate that we can see or hear them, because a lot of times that's really what they want, is just somebody to validate, hey, I can see you in spirit. You know, because I've seen them just jump up and down and wave their arms going like, can you see me? Well, yeah, I can see you, you know, but that's it. You know,
almost like the whole Ghost movie with Demi Moore.
Almost like the Ghost movie with Demi Moore. The fact is that is, you know, to them, it's to me, I feel that they think it's like a rare an event to where they can find somebody that can actually feel
a rare opportunity to say, hey, she's going to be my channel, my mouthpiece.
You know, but see, what's bothersome about this, though, Angela, is why do we feel that when we die, we need to come back and have somebody give another message out, or for them to see them?
Well, you know, good point, and that's another thing that I want to ask our guest tonight, Dr. Deborah Richmond Folks, is why is the need to? And one of the things I feel is because there is that love that is the connection. They want to know, you know, here we know that our loved ones have passed, and they do not wish for you to be sad or overwhelmed or just let go of your own life because they're gone now. And so I believe that a lot of spirits want to say, I'm here. I'm here. I know what's going on with you. Just know I'm around. I know what you're going through. I know that you're aware of me now through, you know, a psychic medium, and I've sent you all of these messages in the home to try to get your attention. People can literally develop their own abilities to communicate with spirit. They don't always need a psychic medium that's
no, that's
been doing
true,
this a
but
while.
Then there's some people that, you know what, Angela, I mean, you can take and have a car roll over 3 times right in front of them, they still wouldn't notice it.
Well, true, because, you know, I think that as far as, you know, whatever profession, whether you, have, psychic medium abilities or not, I mean, we all do. There's just a certain level. So you can be a scribbler or you can be a Picasso.
Yes, you're right, and that's a good way of putting it on it. I'm a little bit both. I'm not a good Picasso because I draw stick people, you know, and they're just not getting any better.
Well, we'll just have to re-invite Rita Berkowitz, which was our guest last week, that draws spirit portraits.
Oh, I had a great time with her. She was great. She was fun.
She really was great, and we're certainly going to have her back on the show again. In fact, next Friday, we're having actually a hypnotherapist, Peter Victor, that will be coming on. And Peter, besides being able to hypnotize, is also very well known around the world, by the way, for his meditations.
Something that I don't
he has meditated with the Dalai Lamas and a lot of spiritual leaders all over the world, and this is through invitation.
Oh, cool.
So he's got a wonderful reputation, and he teaches others how to reach that spiritual realm through their meditation, and also how to reach spirits if they are, you know, wanting to. Following Peter Victor, we have Angelina Diana coming back.
We do, but don't forget to mention about Joanne Gerber, what we're doing with her.
Well, go ahead and let everyone know what we're doing on Monday, August the 4th.
August the 4th. Now, we were actually very honored to be asked to be included in this event. Joanne Gerber has been one of our past psychic mediums that we've had on the show, one of our favorite guests. Joanne is just making a huge name for herself everywhere. And so she hosts these big events.
Called Spirit Chat.
Yes, Spirit Chat on her site, where she has some pretty well-known other, guests that she has, and holds this enormous Spirit Chat that she has. Quite a few people attended.
Yeah, and 1,000 people is typical and it's an online event.
It is. So Angela and I was asked to be the guest for this particular event, and so we will be there. Joanne Gerber's site is, of course, 3 W's, JoanneGerber.com. This is on the 4th. Go in and hang out with us, and let us know that you're around, and let us know that you listen to the show, and say hi and hey and all that other good stuff. But we expect for you all to show up.
Yes, absolutely. And come with some questions, because not only is Joanne going to offer some of her abilities and deliver messages, but so is Tuesday and myself.
Yeah, we're going to be doing readings.
So we will be doing readings, which, by the way, is a rare thing for you and I to do online
Yeah.
with, in the public, that
Right.
is.
That's true. That's very, very true on it. And welcome to everybody that's in our virtual auditorium off of paltalk.com. Hi, everybody that's been popping in and saying hey and listening to the show. So good to see you all out there, too, on it. And, we've got some guests coming up here and there on stuff, too. We're really pretty booked until, actually, November, December?
Yes, until December already.
Yeah.
So we'll be booking for the following year very, very soon.
Angela, I also have to say, is last week, didn't we put out there that we really wanted to bring somebody on who knew about hoodoo?
Yes, we are actually bringing somebody on the show that lives, breathes, and sleeps hoodooism. I won't say she lives, breathes, and sleeps, but she is from the New Orleans area. And, of course, New Orleans, Louisiana, for those of you who have yet to have the opportunity to visit, is deep into not only hoodooism, but also voodooism and the paranormal. A lot of history there.
I think I just like to say that word because for some reason I've been singing it. Hoodoo, hoodoo, hoodoo. And it's, I have to say those two titles are a bit intimidating, though, Angela. I mean, I'm not going to put that nobody with a bad name on there that who does practice this, but it is a little bit intimidating.
Well, I believe that it can be intimidating, number one, if you allow it. But, we know that voodooism, it is a faith, just like someone is a Catholic or, Protestant, Baptist, whatever the case may be. But, they utilize spells and intent and rituals and things of this nature. Does everyone do it like that? No. But in New Orleans, I have to tell you that the common folks, pretty much, I'm not saying they practice it every day, but they at least have come across several different things that they can do, and it's just part of their everyday lives.
Oh, okay.
So, but, voodooism is again, religion. Hoodoo is more of a practice.
Okay. Well, then I'm looking forward to knowing more about that on it. And let me put this note on it, too, because they are really not about darkness. The fact is that they are very much positive people. They work with positive energy and stuff. And so don't let that voodoo, hoodoo, name in itself because of past...
well, I got to tell you, though, Tuesday...
Well, let's just give them that, Angela. Don't go there. We don't want to call anybody dark on this stuff.
We're not going to call them dark. Our guest is not dark, by the way.
Not at all.
And we will put her information on the website and let you know in the very near future the date in which she'll appear. By all means, she is not from the dark. But, those that practice hoodooism or voodooism can cross over. Those in voodoo work with both good and bad spirits. Isn't that something?
All in that aspect of it, Spirits have all colors, that's for sure.
Well, we're going to have to ask our station manager, Joe Montaldo.
Oh, that's right.
Of UPRN 105.8 on the Paranormal Radio Network. Yep. We're going to have to say, listen, we need to do a live broadcast from New Orleans.
Oh, yeah, you know what, though? He would end up putting me in the swamp area and then figure out and then let me see how I can get my way back. So I don't know about that, if we even want to even chance doing that, because I just know he would go straight to that swamp area. He says he's ready. That's what he's talking about. And let me see if I can fend for myself and all those ghosts in that one area. Because it is a haunted state. It really is. It definitely got its hauntedness in it.
Well, I have to tell you, even if you just go to New Orleans and you just go down to the French Quarter, I have to tell you, it's just crawling with spirits, and there are shops down there, some, of course, for tourism, that, they're just kind of a fake sort of front, but there's the real thing mixed in. So you can literally go to the French Quarter in New Orleans to a voodoo high priestess and say, I need you to do a spell, or I need you to put together something for my enemy, or for, to have my lover return to me, or for whatever reason.
Yeah. I know. The fact is, for whatever reason on that, I'm afraid that, I've never kind of dealt in that aspect of where I've done any spells, because I always knew that I turned myself into a frog somehow. I know I messed it up somehow, Angela, and next thing I know, I'd be ribbiting everywhere.
Well, I don't want to leave give the impression to the listening audience that New Orleans is all full of, that ooh.
Well, it is full of ooh.
It is, but I mean,
and they we have cool. They're okay with that.
There are lighter parts of the city, and
I mean, we got
a lot of history and beautiful buildings.
Cool.
So it's really wonderful, a wonderful history of the South, and certainly make your way to New Orleans one of these days, and you'll find
I would love to visit New Orleans. I've never been there. I would love to visit there, and I will visit there one day.
Well, it's one of the most unique cities in the world.
I used to watch it on the cam online. You could find these haunted spots that had a cam set up, and I have to say to you, there's that one Four Corners where they had that one cam set up right in there. I can't remember what the name of it was, part of the city there, but I even seen a ghost horse in a carriage come through it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge portal that was there, and very, very active on it. And some things, I mean, it's like anything else. I get the creeps here and there. I mean, sometimes it's not all good. I have this Aztec guy that comes in, and I don't know what he's about, but he's sure big, and he gives me the heebie-jeebies. He's never tried to hurt me. He's never tried to attack me or anything else like that. He's just big. So, it's just an intimidation on it. It's like, oh, God, what did I do now? He's here for some reason.
Well, there's still horse and carriages in New Orleans to this day. So that's very significant that you said that you saw spirit of, a horse and carriage.
Yeah, I got that actually on a still picture. I took it, where you can actually right-click it and capture the picture on the cam. So
wow.
Yeah, I got that on it. So not bad. Not bad on that. Speaking of pictures, though, when we were talking about that just a few minutes ago, and we've only got a couple minutes before we're going to go to break, but I had a very nice compliment from Brad Steiger. Now, Brad Steiger is an author of over 150 books on the paranormal, anything from miracles to pets and miracles to Christmas stories. I mean, ufology. I mean, he has written about everything.
Big name.
He is a big name, and so we are having him up on as a guest in a couple of months or a month or so. And him and I became friends, talking back and forth. And he enjoys my spirit photography, so I had sent him some pictures. And I have to say, Angela, he sent me back an email that says, that him and his wife both agreed that. And they said that they know a lot of people in this field that take spirit photography, and I happen to be one of those top 5 that they feel are the best ones who have captured spirit on film. And I thought, oh, that was just a great compliment, on it. The best thing the fact is there's lots of ways to capture spirit on film, is, to be very comfortable when you're doing it. Just, be very relaxed. You have that intent that you're not there to harm them, that you're just taking pictures, and I'll talk to them as I'm taking pictures, saying, hold still.
Well, I have to tell you, Tuesday, you do have some incredible photos, and I have 2 that are my absolute favorites, and I wish I had them blown up and framed because they're so amazing. And there's one with the top hat in it. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, I do.
That's my favorite.
I think that's one of my favorites also too. That's an amazing photo there.
It is.
It's a picture of a child in spirit who's in flight. She's very big, actually, on it. And in the center of her shows a woman. You know who she reminds me of? That woman on The Wizard of Oz, the witch, the one that was before they went to
the one on the bicycle?
Yes, her.
I know. She looks like that.
She's got that old black hat on. Where it's, from 1920 or even 1800s, I think that was from.
Ooh,
but you can clearly see her with her hat on in the center of this child in spirit, and like I said, the child in spirit was in flight, and then you can see next to her a couple other spirits that were flying with this child. It's an amazing photo. It really is an amazing photo.
Did you put that on the Portal Talk radio site, by the way?
I think I have that on there. I'm pretty sure I have that on there. On it. It's on that one or my personal website. One of the 2 is probably there.
Well, go to the Portal Talk radio site, and if you don't find it among the spiritual pictures on the page, then certainly jump over to Tuesday Miles' personal website, which will have a link on the Portal Talk radio site.
Absolutely on it. So I have a good time with it. I really do. I mean, there's a lot of pictures I get that are, you think something's in there, but there's not. And we're just about ready to go to break. When we come back, our guest will be joining us. It's Dr. Deborah Richmond-Fulks. And stay tuned. This is Portal Paranormal Talk Radio. I'm your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
I'll be right back.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You have an amazing story.
Thank you. Thank you very
and
much.
Angela are both shaking their heads. Wow, you know what? This is really cool. This is real documentation of this stuff.
Well, thank you very much.
It's rare.
It's really become my life's work, and it's evolved. It hasn't been, okay, I think I'll do this.
Yeah, I tell you, when I was reading that Footprints of William, I would say, oh my goodness, and then I couldn't even fathom, Deborah, how you even absorbed that information. You know what I'm saying? After
Right.
you found out.
It was the hardest thing that I ever did. I remember when that first morning after William told me that he came to me that night and said that you were my wife. I walked that manor, the old manor at Stansted, in a daze, complete and utter daze.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it.
Well, you said, oh, my goodness, I would have been saying, holy crap. That's what I'm sorry. But I would have been saying, holy crap, the whole time, thinking,
I felt like an outcast. I said, no other guide in the world comes through and says, that I'm your husband or anything else. And I asked John Edward that point blank in a class. Could that be possible? And he looked away, went into that semi-trance he does when he talks to the boys, and came back and said, yes, it's true.
We're getting ready to go on, Deborah.
Okay.
But not the UFOs still around.
Yes, Saturn, really, what it is.
Okay. And welcome back to Portal Paranormal Talk Radio. Again, I'm your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
And we have our guest with us. Angela, can you introduce our guest for our show?
Absolutely. We have Dr. Deborah Richmond Folks on the line. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Angela. I'm just delighted to be here.
Yes, absolutely. And I just said to you, nice to meet you. And you and I have not met yet, but I know that you and Angela have met.
That's right. Nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you as well on it. And you know what? What an amazing story. These are the type of the stories that people read that say to themselves, you know what? For once, here is factual documentation that something really exists.
Well, thank you very much. It's something that evolved really with me, and I have to tell you that as an accountant, it was not something I really could believe in the beginning, and it took a lot of convincing on Spirit's part to tell me and prove to me that it actually was real.
Let's go back to the actual day or the time that you had received information. What were you doing?
Well, it was actually in the middle of the night, which is usually the time when Spirit comes tapping on our shoulder and says hello, and that was around 3 to 4 in the morning. I was at Stansted, Arthur Findlay College for spiritual development, happily so, and in the middle of the night he came and told me, and he stood in my room and took off a ring and kept putting it back on his ring finger and saying that you were my wife, and he told me that I was his wife in the 13th century.
Okay, so Deborah, stop there for a moment, and let's go back to explain to our listening audience that Deborah Folks is an expert on past lives and reincarnation, and she has written a book called Footprints of William, and William is actually Lord Douglas.
That's
from
right.
the 13th century. Is that correct, Deborah?
That's right. He, through a series of meditations, he told me who he was, and then he told other mediums, such as Robert Brown, Suzanne Northrop, and John Edward, of his identity, and during sittings with them or readings with them. So it all was corroborated. And then I took that information and went back into original documents in England and Scotland, 34 trips in about a little under 4 years.
Wow, 34 trips in 4 years.
$700,000. My husband reminds me every day. But what I did was I went back to the original documents in Norman French, in Latin, to corroborate the information that he gave me. And actually, I was able to prove some of the information that he gave me, and it was not what the historians were telling us. You see, as they remind us in the movie Braveheart, that history is written by those who hanged heroes. And
right.
oddly enough, William Douglas was the first nobleman to join with William Wallace, his cousin, in rebellion against Edward, King of England.
So when you say you've done the historical research, you actually went back to the original documents and you went to where the documents were about William Wallace, who was, by the way, the main person for the movie Braveheart. But
right.
You also encountered that about Lord Douglas. Is that correct?
That's right. There were many, many documents from going back as far as 1267 on this man. And it told his life story and what happened to him through documents, through court records. He was attacked at his father's manor and nearly beheaded, nearly killed in 1267. So I had a lot of information to go on that he told me little by little about his life. And then I would either happen upon the documents or purchase a book that had some of the old documents translated into English, fortunately. And these were incredible sources of information that I was able to put my hands on over a period of the 4 years. And yes, I was able to prove the information that he told me was true.
Well, let's talk about Footprints of William for a minute. I've read your book. It's absolutely amazing. And I was, by the way, Deborah, fascinated with the photographs that you had in there, not only of spirit energy, which I'd like you to talk about shortly, but also of, like the full apparition on film. But, I kept on turning the pages, Deborah, and to be quite honest with you, when I first began to read your book, I thought, okay, here's going to be a charming story about Dr. Folk's experience and, about past lives and so on and so forth. But as I started to read, I have to tell you that charming attitude or, what I thought was going to be about really wasn't at all what I anticipated. And I kept on thinking, oh, my goodness. I have to tell you that I almost fell on the floor when I found out who you are a descendant of. Can we talk about that for a moment?
Yes. Actually, I am a descendant of both families, I've now found out. I'm a descendant of myself in that lifetime, Eleanora of Louvain, who was his second wife, William Lahardy Douglas's second wife. And I'm also, on my father's side, a descendant of Lord Douglas through the Douglases of Bonjedward and through that particular line. So I must have chosen well because I chose a family that was descendants of both sides of the family.
Well, see, Angela says, oh, my goodness, and I was just saying earlier, that's a holy crap moment. I mean, mind you, the fact is that's royalty. I mean, that's good.
But guess what? We probably all are. At one point in the lives we've encountered, we've probably all been royalty. We've all been aristocracy, as they say in Scotland. We've all been nobility. And the reason I believe that they chose that lifetime, or we chose that lifetime to go look at, is because there were so many existing documents still in the 20th century that we could go back and look at. I mean, Edward destroyed most of the documents and everything that he grabbed in Scotland in 1296 when he conquered the nation and took them back to England. And a lot of these were destroyed in their travels.
In the year 1296, is that what you're saying?
1296, yes. Jeez. So we're going back to this particular time frame and the documents that I was able to find. In fact, one of the things they led me to, which is a very obscure one, was a bail document in my name as Eleanor, well, at that time that was my married name, was de Ferris. And that's my mother's family, of course. So that gets all involved once again. But Eleanor de Ferris actually put a bail slip out for William Hardy Douglas in 1291, and she had 4 of her cousins who were also well-known knights in England, all sign surety for him. That meant they put up their estates that William Douglas would show his face in court. So, I mean, these were things that proved to me that I must have had a great love for him, because the other documents my father put forward said that I was taken off in the hinterlands of Scotland and raped and forced to marry him. And so there was a huge disconnect. And through the story that he revealed to me, you know, finding the bail slip, finding these other things, finding out I had 8 children, I must have at least found him somewhat attractive.
That was yes, to have 8 children with him.
Yeah, in less than 10 years.
Oh, well, okay, we know what you were doing during the day, or if it was really cold winters, what you were doing during the night.
Well, Deborah, I want to ask you, you know, reading Footprints of William, I found that one of the things that you said about, you know, Lord Douglas was that he came through in various forms. In other words, he came through with who he was at particular lifetimes.
That's correct. And, for example, he told me that he was also Guglielmo de Douglas, that is William de Douglas, in 795, and he followed Charlemagne into what is now northern Italy. He left his mark on Florence because his tabard was covered with a lion, and that was the Lion of Scotland, and he was the one who freed Florence from the invaders. And to this day, the gates of Florence have the lions on them and celebrate his heroism. And he led me to find documents and even find the castles we lived in northern Italy with the remaining family there. And I found documents, and he was always saying, and we'll have 20 children. Well, I found documents to reveal that we did have that, around 800. Who would have believed that?
Right, and who would have believed that? And, you know, Deborah, for our listeners now, I'm sure that it's very difficult for them to wrap around their logical brain and say, wait a minute here, how is that possible? But one of the things that you mention in Footprints of William is a number of different psychic mediums, and one being Rita Berkowitz, which offers portraits of spirits.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us about that experience with Rita?
Well, there were a couple, because she's met William on numerous occasions, because I'm in her some of her development circles, and also at her church where she's my pastor. But on 2 specific readings, the first one he came through as someone from Egypt, and he came through as a palace guard. He was a bit naughty, though. That was our first encounter, and Rita was drawing him. And now, mind you, I didn't know Rita very well at that time. She was drawing a face that I recognized immediately as my guide, William, because that's the face I was seeing, the eyes. Mm-hmm. And there was Rita going, oh! I said, what's the matter, Rita? She said, well, he's wearing a headpiece of a palace guard, a beautiful gold a collar or, you know, a necklace here. And she said, and bronze body. She said, yes, and shaved chest. And I said, yes. And she said, well, nothing else. And I said,
so it
what
came
do you
in
mean?
full, you know, birthday suit.
Yeah. Exactly. And since we're on live radio, I won't go into the full detail, but
come on.
Very pleased to see me. And now those were her words. And she said, I've never had a guide come through like this. I was just a little surprised.
I don't think I've ever seen that either, where I've seen full frontal.
Exactly. And so he just thought he was just the funniest thing, and that it was a wonderful way to come tell your wife that he cared about you.
Oh.
And I didn't take it that way and didn't speak to him for a week, and wouldn't do meditation, just absolutely stopped. And a friend of mine finally called me and said, William wants to speak to you. And I said, I'm not speaking to him. You don't know what he did. And the next time was a little friendlier, and he was close. And that was when he came through as this knight with Charlemagne. And Rita Berkowitz knew nothing about this part of the story. I had just gotten back from France. And anyway, so here he comes in and everything else, and she's painting it, and she's doing this. And I said, oh, my God, I can't believe. She says, oh, yes, and he's in chain. He's wearing chain mail, whatever. And I said, oh, my goodness. I said, that's exactly who he is. I said, you don't know, Rita, but you just drew, I said, the insignia for Charlemagne. I said, and he told me he was a follower of Charlemagne, and I took this beautiful picture in Paris, bumping into the statue of Charlemagne and his two lieutenants, when I'm trying to take pictures of Notre Dame, mind you. Didn't know it was there, and bumped into the statue, took this picture, and there's a big pink heart that formed right over this Scottish soldier that was his lieutenant.
Yeah, you know, what you said, that you're $700,000 later, though, you know, but I don't know if your husband understands this. You have just made history in proving concrete proof that reincarnation does exist, that our lives still keep returning, still keep living on. I mean, and there's not proof out there, though. There really isn't. I mean, I ask this constantly. Show me the proof of reincarnation. I really want to believe in it.
Well, you know, the spiritualists, and I am a spiritualist. I'm going for what they call the Morris Pratt certification, and I'm in the middle of that right now. The spiritualists believe that, of course, we can prove that we do retain our personalities when we cross over, and that only our body dies. And through mediumship, we can prove the continuity of life. They have always said that they would entertain such thoughts and such ideas that we reincarnate if you can prove that we have the same personality over lifetimes. Well, of course, I would say that my personality is the same now as it was as Eleanor of Louvain. That proves nothing. But, and I have to say, this happened just recently in May, and when we were down there, right?
Yes,
we were down there
at
Virginia Beach. Angela and I were there, and we were in a public demonstration with John Edward at Robert Brown's retreat. And John Edward came to this woman sitting next to me wearing pink. I was told to wear pink to that demonstration, and I dutifully did. And he says, I've got your husband here, name of William. I've got a young man here who died in a vehicle accident as a soldier, blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, I don't know anybody. I don't have a husband named William. I have a great-grandfather maybe named Bill, and on and on. So I finally put my hand up and said, yes, it's me. And they came forward, validated William. But he also validated this young Marine who was killed in Vietnam, actually 40 years ago today, on August 1st, 1968. And I won't go into his name because because there is family still surviving, and I have to go through the normal paces of courtesy. But I can tell you this, that he came through, wrote 3 books with me as Archibald Douglas, a Regent of Scotland, and my son. And his personality, as it's being revealed through his friends, through other people that I've been talking to just recently, that it is remarkably the same. And if we can prove through a shadow of, if we can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this young man, the Marine, who has spoken to me, identified himself, was the same personality as Archibald Douglas, then we will have that continuity of life that the spiritualists will be able to accept through mediumship.
Which will be a huge historical moment. But what fascinates me, and Deborah, tell me, how did you feel when you received the messages that you were receiving from Lord Douglas, and then to have it unfold again and again and again, found in documentation? Did you, after he announced that he was your husband in a prior life, but, all the other synchronicities and all the other facts that you found and uncovered, how did that feel as, an educated woman and as a lovely person, period? Did it throw you, or did you say, okay, I'm just finding validation after validation?
It did throw me a great deal. I was frightened to death. I have to tell you that morning when he first revealed himself, I didn't believe it. I went to breakfast, and the girls were bringing out a deck of cards called angel cards, Doreen LaVertu angel cards, and right. I drew soulmate. And they said, "Oh, your husband must be your soulmate." I said, and looked at him, a blank stare, like, whatever. And then went to class. Our teacher got out a deck of cards. Once again, I got the angel card that was soulmate.
Wow.
And over again, he kept telling me and showing me and proving to me. But I have to tell you that it is a very difficult thing to accept all that and still try and maintain your head in the real world here. And more importantly, when I took this to spiritualists with various organizations, most of them said, "Oh, yeah, right. Oh, isn't that nice?" And they didn't want to hear it. They really didn't want to hear it, and I really became pretty self-conscious about it. I had very few friends who would support me on it. Rita Berkowitz was one, and because she was a known medium, a spirit artist who's drawn him twice now, I valued that friendship. And there were other girls and ladies who were in my development class and who supported me, but most of all, Anne, my girlfriend Anne in New York, who's developing herself. She really was the only one that come to my aid when I'd call her up and say, "You don't know what he's doing now. He's telling me I have to go to Italy, or he's telling me we're going to Japan." I mean, we went to Japan to climb the Reiki mountain to prove to myself that I no longer was ill with asthma. I mean, I was on 17 different drugs a day when I started out doing this work, and within 6 months he told me, "Go learn Reiki, do this." I did. And within 6 months, I was no longer taking 40 milligrams of prednisone a day. So this has been miraculous healing in every step of the way.
Well, what I find amazing, Deborah, that now that you've shared about the condition that you had with the asthma, is that you would receive messages from William Douglas to tell you to do these things, and
right.
You did those things, and
right.
Within 6 months you were healed.
That's right. It's a miraculous story of the work of spirit. I mean, this isn't about Deb. This isn't about me doing all these fantastic things. They had to get me well enough so I would be able to climb some of these hills and mountains and go into the hinterlands of Scotland to find Black House Tower, for example, that very few people even in Scotland have seen. And that's where their hero, the good Sir James and William Douglas, lived, and that's where they staged their raids on the English. So, I mean, these are historic sites that you can't get into very easily, and I had to be well enough to do that. So every step of the way, it was like it was choreographed, it was planned, and they knew what they were doing. I mean, Spirit isn't all-knowing, but they do see the bigger picture. So they knew what they had to do to get me prepared to do this work.
Well, you can sure tell that Angela has read your book because she's got 1,000 questions, and every time that she goes, I thought she stopped to ask a question, I was ready to ask, and I thought, okay, she's just ruling this interview here. I'm just going to sit back. But before I forget, because I do have one question, you mentioned, and I think this is very significant, interesting, about how he came back as another person that he was in a past life, and I think that's very interesting to know that those of us who have had many lives, that we can come back as not only the one that we were in our last life, but another person that we were actually as in another. Did I say that right? I'm confusing myself.
When William, for example, he was able to come back within the same family. He was William Douglas, or Uyomo de Douglas, a younger son of Lord Douglas, back in 795, or Sholto Douglas at that time. And then in 1290 or 1250, he was born into the family again. But yes, I think we can. I really do believe that we can choose the families that we incarnate in. That is, pick our parents, which is to some of us sometimes looking back on various lifetimes, it's like, what was I thinking?
I've never heard of that though before, because it's very interesting that, let's say, for instance, in one life I was a princess, but yet in another life I was a fireman. And that yet I'm still coming back here and coming through to another relative that might be here as a different person each time. But the fact of it is that some of us might not be recognizing that indeed it's actually the same spirit, but in another different lifetime.
That's right. But have you ever had that deja vu experience, or that experience like you meet somebody and you go, I feel I've known this person all my life?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's somebody you know who's from your soul group, who's traveled with you many times, and that's why you recognize them. I met a young man up in Ontario, and I looked at this young man, and I immediately felt, this young man was my son. And I mean, of course, I never told him that because you just don't go up to people and say, "You were my son." but I mean, I knew it. It was one of those things where I absolutely knew, and of course, I kind of figured out who he might be in another lifetime, because I can't get information from him on the other side, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
In other words, he's here, he's living, so that's why I really can't pick up his personality. So that's why with this young Marine, it was so important that he passed, 40 years ago, because there's still enough people alive today. And he told me, he said, you need to know that I had the idyllic lifetime here. It was short. It was very, very short. He was only 22 when he passed. But he said, when I left, he said, I wanted to leave real fast and not have any pain or whatever. But he said to me, I had to leave real fast. So he was thrown from a Jeep, head hit the ground. He said, everything went black. I didn't feel a thing. Now can you imagine what kind of comfort that can bring to any number of mothers, sisters, brothers,
absolutely,
fathers, to know that when, that he planned a shorter life and that he had an idyllic life, and at the same time when he left he felt no pain.
That's very true, but then on the flip side of that, the fact is that sometimes when we're in that dying stage and the family is able to come and say goodbyes, versus the time that they go instantly, and there's that, I wish I was there, or I could have said at least goodbye, and I didn't get a chance.
And here's another thing. I'm sure, and he's told me this, that he came back and actually visited a member of the family in a dream. I know he did with me, because he showed up one night and came to me and said, it gave me a big hug, and I knew who it was instantly. And it was a visit from Spirit. And I said, oh, my God, it's my son Archie. And I just knew it. He felt like, I don't know how to tell you this, but he felt like a son. He was a big kid, and just, but he was wearing Marine clothing from Vietnam time. And I said, why are you wearing that? And he says, because I was a Marine. And I went, uh-oh, this is going to be the beginning of another lifetime I'm going to know about.
A beginning of another $700,000 spent on documentation.
Is reincarnating in the same family, or is there a chance that we pick other families? Is it most of it that we do reincarnate back into our same bloodline?
No, not necessarily. You have free choice. We have free choice here, and we have free choice there.
Okay.
I think it's mostly that soul groups. And sometimes we say, okay, let's all of us go back to Scotland and get their independence now and get that all squared away. Or, which would be a nice thing. But, or we all say, well, let's all go to Japan and we're going to clear up that country. Or let's all, go here or there. Or we're going to be all over the world this time and we might meet up, but we might not. So, these are, somehow you gravitate to people that you know. And or you're led there by your guides.
Yes,
I try to remind people that when we cross over, when we're on the other side, that we don't necessarily have an awful lot to do. We don't have to pay the mortgage. We don't have to get up every morning and make breakfast for husband, kids, whatever.
Okay.
We are an entity that's in whatever, that is energy, but it's not. And we can, if we need something, we just think about it and we create it.
So visualize it, yeah.
Exactly.
So do you think there's a little bit of boredom over there, huh?
Well, I don't think there's boredom, because look at all the things that are happening in our planet and our world.
No, that's true.
And so that they can, that's why I think that they have so much involvement with what we're doing, and they really have an awful lot of control.
So do you think that the Reiki that you come to be actually involved with was mainly a signal to you to do the Reiki for your own self, to help to heal your own self?
Well, of course, I help to heal my own self.
Okay.
And I've helped other people actually develop. a lot of people, when they think of spirit communication, think that they have to go into this meditative state, and then they start walking around like John Edwards saying, okay, I've got your father, sister here, brother, you know, and that rapid-fire delivery that he does. And no, most people don't get it that way, and even with a great deal of training. So what I try and do is encourage them to do Reiki and healing, because the process of all of the work we do is really healing. And they can start going into somewhat of a light trance when they're doing Reiki, and they start seeing things, and they're in a relaxed state, and so they can give messages and ask permission of the person they're healing. May I give you a message? I am seeing something here. Would you like this message? And so that's how a lot of people are able to learn and pass on information from spirit. So I think that that's just another step, and it really helps me a great deal.
Well, Deborah, you are a Reiki master, and I know that you're a psychic medium yourself, but can you explain to the listening audience what exactly Reiki is? We hear Reiki and healing all in the same sentence. Can you tell us the difference between a doctor healing and a Reiki master healing?
Well, Reiki healing is hands-on Reiki-on. It's just major expression for that, and what it really is, it's energy healing from the world of spirit, from the universal life force, however you want to phrase it, and it comes through, it flows through with the touch. When you put hands on a shoulder, it doesn't matter where you touch the body, because we believe with Reiki that Reiki, the energy, will flow through to the part of the body that needs a healing. Now that being said, there are a lot of aspects of the body that we carry over from other lifetimes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I believe that, as we're taught, a lot of us, that we have cell memory that we come with. We don't have cognitive memory of past lives, but we bear with us a cell formation that has cell memory. And think of it this way, if you will. We all know in the Braveheart movie that Mel Gibson as Braveheart there, as William Wallace, that was a very accurate portrayal of what happened to him during his execution, being disemboweled. Right. What if he came back in this lifetime to once and for all cure that lifetime as William Wallace? And so he came back, and he had Crohn's disease. He physically overcame Crohn's disease, because now we have medication, we have other things, and he is now a healthy individual. So you see, we can come back in a lifetime, cure a past lifetime, and then when he incarnates again as some other person, he won't have that lower abdominal issue that he carried with him since the time of Wallace.
That's amazing. So cellular memory.
That's right. And we believe that that's why a lot of people, and I'll give you a perfect example of that. When I started going over to Scotland, I had nothing wrong with my ankles. I was in perfect shape, in that regard. And all of a sudden, I started hobbling around with a great deal of pain in my left ankle. I didn't know what it was all about. So I finally asked William, listen, will you please show me in meditation or in a regression that we'll do what happened? And he did. He showed me sitting in a chair on a big platform, and it was a high-back wooden chair, and I was tied to it, but there was a metal fetter or collar put around my ankle on the left-hand side. I could see the flames coming up under this platform, and they reached the metal fetter around my left ankle, and they burned that ankle severely before everything else went up in flames and I was gone. And I saw this thing so vividly that I have to tell you afterwards that I was emotionally drained. I was absolutely sobbing throughout the whole thing. And I found the documents about that lifetime, even found the testimony that I had given at a trial in Scotland in 1537. And everything that I found out about it validated what I had seen and what I had heard. So after that, seeing that, going through a regression, I noted that my ankle was healed. Within 3 weeks, I had absolutely no pain, none whatsoever.
Well, that leads me to the next question, Deborah, because this has been on my mind forever. There are a lot of past life therapists out there. And I know that for our listeners that who may have not heard about past life therapists, they do actually work with the present being here on the earth plane to overcome an emotional or a mental attachment in their past life. What are your thoughts about that, Deborah, considering that you went through the experience emotionally, recalling that time when you were burned in a past life?
Well, I've also studied with Brian Weiss. I've taken his courses, his certification course in past life regression. I think it's an excellent one. I think it's a very good tool. I think if a person wants to do that, they should do it with a professional therapist the first time. I did with someone who was also trained by Brian Weiss, and it's an emotional experience. For me, it was physically draining as well. I was a basket case afterwards. And I have to say that for me, it's relevant, and it really worked. I think that if you're open to it, that it's something you can pursue as part of what William calls alchemy healing. That is, alchemy healing means that you use whatever healing modality you feel drawn to, and that one will help you with one or more of your lives, past lives, in something that happened to you, so you can heal from that. And the more important thing here is this. Robert Brown tells us that disease is actually dis-ease. So when we have an issue in this current lifetime, it manifests itself in pain or discomfort or disease in that cell memory that has been bruised before. And this is, I think, a concept that people have to take a look at. Because if you stuff things down and you don't tell people how you feel, or whatever it is that you do to yourself physically when you resist being who you are, that you can create a cancer. You can create cells. Cancer is actually cells that get kind of jumbled up out of order.
Right.
And, you have big ones and little ones all mixed together. And that's an energy shift, that you have actually created that. And the propensity or inclination to have cancer is because those cells have been weakened in other lifetimes. And
I agree with that. And I've had hate letters because I said that once before, too.
and well, it's not easy to speak the truth.
It's not. It's not. And, the fact of it is that, and people know this these days. The fact is that you can make yourself even sicker by, dwelling on the fact of everything. The fact of it is stress, all these COD things that people do, that, the repetitive things that they have to always worry about. It's going to make you sick.
Yes, absolutely.
It does make you sick.
And pills don't take care of it. Pills might give you a temporary relief to get you through a particular day, but the main thing is that we really need to take a look at what the cause is and then work with it. And I really feel a lot of it has to do with circulation and how we react within our body, shutting down in certain areas so that the flow of life, the flow of energy that is our body, actually has difficulties. It's stopped, and that's what causes our pain. That's what causes our anguish and our disease, as Robert Brown says, or disease. And these are
okay. So Deborah, the past life ailments or concerns or issues are carried forward to this life's concerns and health issues.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. That is absolutely amazing, and I'm sure that we don't even begin to fathom how in the world that we're able, I guess through cellular memory, like you've said, carry forward in all of our lives.
Right.
The same thing until you think that we'll finally be able to go forward and heal ourselves in the next lifetime, or do we continue to go over and over and over the same issues with each lifetime until we finally work it out?
Well, I think we do continue to handle the same issues until we work it out. If we keep coming back and you keep coming back and you say you had an issue with alcoholism and you never get sober, you're going to come back and you're going to have to face it. That's how it works. Mine in this lifetime, I know one of the lessons I learned
I just want to leave the bad habits behind and start a new life when I come back.
I'd like to just leave them behind too, but I'm afraid we have to, work them out. But for example, I know that mine was you don't have any control over another human being. They're going to be who they are, and you need to accept that. And that was a huge lesson for me. And as soon as I learned that in this lifetime, that it was just such a relief and release. So, I mean, there are lessons, and it's easier to look back on your life to pick out, oh, that's why that happened, and that's why that happened. Life is, as they always say, is better understood looking backwards on it.
I want to ask about a karmic comment. Do we end our karmic lessons in each life, or do we carry them on to the next, do you think?
Well, I think that we retain who we are, so if you've learned a lesson, that somehow it is retained, but that's your decision. How much you carry into your next life of cognitive memory, of who you are, what you've done, is really up to you. You sit down with your guide, or however you want to think about that, the higher intelligence, and say, I want to learn these lessons, but I don't want to have to repeat these, so I want to learn these real quickly. I want to be in a family that already has core values and already has this and already has that, so that I don't have to learn those lessons again. I'll already have them growing up.
Yeah, because I know that myself. I even recall even saying this. I know this is a karmic lesson, and I feel that I'm done with it. Can we move past it now? I don't want to go a little more with it.
Isn't that great? That's wonderful. But, karmic lessons figure into natural law, which is the basis of spiritualism. And natural law pretty much tells you that as above, so below. Here, it's here, a continuum to the other side. And whatever you do, there is a price for it. And you are compensated for everything you do. It's funny, but if you think about it, you're paid for everything you do. And if you do something wrong, well, you're going to get paid for that as well. Is that karma?
Yeah, I always know that when I eat those 3 candy bars, I'm going to pay for it later.
Well, Deborah, we have a virtual auditorium on paltalk.com, and one of our listeners here wants to know, once you learn your lessons, does this life end?
No. Because, for example, if you learn, I have never met anyone or heard of anyone on the other side who has actually learned all their lessons. Now, I haven't talked to anyone in the higher realms up with God and all the others that would be in the higher realms. I mean, I haven't, that I'm aware of. So I don't talk to those people on a daily basis, so I don't know. But what would happen? There are always more lessons to learn.
Well, wait a minute here, because when I've got to reach a certain point where I'm done, and I get my little beach chair up in heaven that's sitting there waiting for me.
And then what are you going to do? Then you're going to want to help other people who are doing that.
I don't have to come back and do this stuff anymore. I just want to be done.
Well, then what are you going to sit and do? You're going to start helping people and being a guide to people.
That would be cool.
And then you're going to want to be a better guide. Then you're going to want to be a group of guides. And then, on and on it goes to infinity. You're never done. Perfection and lessons are always there to learn.
Well, I'm okay with it as long as I'm not have to walk Earth and have to deal with the idiots that we have down here most of the time.
Oh, well, we all grow. The Rosicrucians tell us there are many reasons to incarnate.
Right.
And one of them being a physical nature. That's why that we do have physical men and women, et cetera, with physical attraction, because that's what brings us back, because we don't have physical bodies on the other side as we know them.
Right, we don't have to diet, we don't have to worry about our health, we don't have to worry. This is the point, the fact that we all
so don't have sex.
I think there's that visualization, that's what you were talking about earlier. But, the fact of it is that we, and of course, being raised early in a certain religious sense that says to us, when we die, that we get to go up and we reach heaven, we float in our clouds, everything's all dandy. Okay, well, it's not going to work that way, but eventually, we hope to think that we reach that spot. We don't have to come back, and we can basically just have that positive light flowing.
Well, You have to think of it this way, if you will. We've just discovered that in one of the rings of Saturn that there's there might even be indications of something that would be a creation of oil. I mean, imagine that, oil on Saturn. We'll send up the drillers. But or we have water on Mars. I mean, if we just have that in our own little group here of planets, what's going on beyond them throughout the galaxy? And now we have an astronaut who grew up in the Roswell area and says of Arizona, and now tells us that he definitely believes that we've been landed on by other people. So, I mean, there are more there are more aspects of character and personality and growth in an individual that we can learn, because it's not just our planet, it's a universe, and a universe beyond that, and a universe of universes. So it's, you know, it's a huge picture. I used to think, oh my God, if I had more than one life, this would be terrible. I wouldn't want to come back and go to school again. and now I'm finding out that I had, you know, I mean, I'm going to Egypt this fall with the Edgar Cayce group, and I'm finding out how many lives I had in Egypt. And
wow,
you know, amazing. You know, you're involved with all these neat people. I want to be your best friend for a while.
Yeah, we need to travel with you, Deborah.
We really do.
There you go. There you go.
We need to travel. Okay, so Deborah, I want to, before the end of our show, because we are coming near on it, I want to talk about your other books, the Douglas Trilogy.
Right. Those books actually, because they were written with spirit, but they are totally based on the documents. I kept the timelines and everything that happened in there. I validated through documents, through chroniclers of the times, that is, a lot of the priests and archdeacons would write about those times and record incidents in history, so that I kept very, very close to the facts. Now, I always said when I talk about my books, when I sell them in, say, at Scottish Highland Games in America, I don't bring up the spirit aspect, because why bother? What's the difference? In fact, I'll let you in on a little secret, that Randall Wallace, who wrote the book about Braveheart and the movie and the script, also said that he was rather prodded by spirit. He told one of my friends that he was prodded by spirit to write the book. Who knows how far he went with that? I think on a certain level we're all prodded by spirit to do certain things. So,
Deborah, do you teach people how to do research? Because really, I mean, the success that you've had on learning how to really research the stuff, and I understand the messages that you get from spirit can be about your past life. Do you teach others how to do this? Because this is a gift.
Well, I certainly would. I mean, I have small classes that we do meet twice a week in development classes, but really most people haven't the desire to go back and prove it. It is an expensive endeavor. It's something that I think that you do later on in your life.
Yeah, I'm sure. That you're
you know,
hold your guides to stop talking to you.
Right, exactly. But well, you know, I mean, you wonder what it's all about, and then you look at all the spiritualists that have really made a big difference, and most of them died with penniless. So it's not a financial. It's not something that you go, oh well, I think I'll invest in you know, in that. But you do it because it's a labor of love and because of the discoveries. I'm going to share one more quick thing, because I know we're close on time. In the book, it talks about the shapes of these orbs that appeared on all my film, and they were diamonds, and they were also head and shoulders shapes, and they're in various places in Douglas places. I found, purely by accident one day, that these shapes went together out of the alchemical tables. These shapes were for a particular healing. They were for a substance that would, and then they described it perfectly in the alchemical tables of mucus, of breathing, of that were exactly what the symptoms are for asthma, and that this was the antimonium that would cure asthma. When you use these two shapes together, that's what it says in the alchemical table. So all along, all the pictures that I took in Scotland with spirit imagery on it had those shapes, and those two shapes together were a cure for asthma. So it was always a little message, a thread.
See, and that's even astounding in itself, Deborah, because just think of all of the people around the world. If they could capture that, symbology in a photograph and then, go to the alchemy tables and see what it is, that maybe they can cure themselves.
That's right. Exactly right. It's such an incredible thing to work with spirit. Just a wonderful, wonderful blessing.
Well, Deborah, you've been a wonderful guest here tonight. I thank you for being here. And, I think that your work has not only touched upon the spiritual possibilities, past lives, reincarnation, and your own personal journey and research and documentation, but you've also provided with the Douglas Trilogy for those people that are in need of world history or history buffs or history professors, the war on Scottish independence in the 13th century. I think you've provided a tremendous amount of documentation and work.
Absolutely.
And we thank you for it.
Absolutely. Honest.
Thank you very much. I've just been delighted to be here tonight.
We have the links on those. There's a lot of people asking about where you can get your books at. We do have the link on the portal website that you can actually access from there. All the links that go right straight through to Dr. Deborah's website, so where you can get the books at. So don't fret, they're out there for you people. Thank you so much for joining us. You know what? I learned a lot, and I have 1,000 more questions. We'll have to have you back.
Oh, well, thank you. I'd just be delighted to do that.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Thanks. Thank you so much, Angela. Have a great week. Everybody, God bless, and take care of each other and yourselves, and we will see you next week. This is Portal Paranormal Talk Radio. I'm your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, my goodness.
That was amazing.
I love her. Deborah, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, my gosh. You know what?